Hello and welcome back to the Sports Brief Podcast. Colton Hall here, obviously. Welcome back. A lot of great things happening this week. The Vikings won a game. I'm very excited. A lot of different things as well. Let's see what else, Tristin. There was a lot, really, because the Packers won, kind of won in. I don't want to say in a lucky way, but they won. They won. But in all, it was a good game that I watched. But I'm not gonna lie to you, every time I hear a Packers fan talk, they are, and it's not you. It's like Ben Conant, who's over here. I'd mentioned to him that, hey, dude, the Packers got lucky. Like the only reason they won is because I don't know how much they paid the refs. I'm kidding, but I don't know what happened there. But he says I don't care. It's a win. So I mean, who cares? I guess it's a win, right?
Yeah, it feels good to be sitting at 5-1 with our new coach. But yeah, I got to agree with you. We absolutely lucked out with that win. We shouldn't have won that game, I don't think. I feel like we're 4-2, but the record's 5-1. But when they had to do something at the end of the game, they were able to make it happen. When they were given new life with the penalties, they were able to make something out of it. But yeah, it's definitely inexcusable. The reffing was awful on both sides of the ball. And I'm not saying that there was a lot that didn't go the Packers' way. There was, and there was a lot that went the Packers' way. Obviously, the hands to the face calls that ultimately saved us and won us the game, because I think there was a 3rd and 10, and Rodgers got sacked on it, and we were going to have to punt when there was only 3 or 4 minutes left and we needed to score a touchdown. But there was a hands to the face call. Got him a first down, and they ended up scoring a touchdown on that drive, and that ultimately set us up for the game-winning field goal. And yeah, you just hate to see it. It's going on. There's really bad reffing going around. I mean, it's not just that game; it's lots of games. And
it is.
But this was probably the most evident of what we've seen in the previous weeks, at least. I mean, there was 2 hands to the face calls that were called. One of them was ridiculous. I mean, the hand never touched the helmet. It was on the shoulder pad. There was one, I think the first one that was called, he had his helmet for a split second. It wasn't even on his face. It was just on the side of his helmet. But he let go and went down to the shoulder pad, and they called hands to the face. But I don't really agree with it. I wouldn't have called it if I was a referee. But yeah, you just hate to see it. And hopefully they start to clean it up a little bit.
Yeah. And again, it's the one thing I learned. And one thing I've looked at is, and the one thing that my coach really taught me is, you can't ever leave it up to the refs. So I kind of want to go in two different ways about this. Obviously, yes, the Packers won, but I feel like the Lions outplayed the Packers just in most cases. I also feel like, though, the Lions kind of I don't feel sorry for them. I really don't. I really don't feel sorry for Lions fans, because you had multiple opportunities to put the Packers away. There was a time, I think they had 3 or 4 drives in the red zone that ended in field goals. If you ask me, Tristin, I don't think nobody should feel sorry for him. You had an opportunity to put Aaron Rodgers and the Packers away in Lambeau Field, right?
Yep.
At Lambeau Field. You had an opportunity to put him away. You didn't do it. Now you lost. That's just the nature of the business. You have to be able to, in the NFL especially, if you want to take down a good team in a tough away game, you have to do it at their field. You have to be able to punch it in from a yard out. You have to be able to score touchdowns instead of field goals. That's just the harsh reality of the NFL. As far as the penalties go, though, the first one I didn't really see. I didn't see on either one of them. I really didn't see it. But that's just the nature of the business. You can't just. I mean, yes, it sucks that you lost a game from it, but at the end of the day, it's really your own fault if you're a Lions fan. But I don't know. I think a lot of people, and I've kind of talked to some people about it too, is they really think that it might ruin the NFL in a way. I don't know what to think about that, because you're never going to get me to stop watching football. I don't care who you are. So, I mean, I'm always going to watch the NFL, but I saw an interesting stat, and I put it on. I think I shared it with you, or at least put it on our outline here. In last year, I think there was a total of 1,754 penalties or something.
Yeah.
And then and I got this from I can't recall where. I'm actually going to look it up now. But I think we're on pace right now to shatter that. And to be honest, I think it comes at a cost, though. I mean, if you're trying to, obviously, they're trying to make the game safer, which I understand and I support. But at some point, there's got to be you just got to pick, to be honest with you. And I'm looking at right here on different plays. There's a lot of different things here that are going on against count. Yeah, I'm trying to find exactly where I found this, but where these statistics come from. But they have had through 6 games. Most teams, the Cleveland is the most penalized team in the NFL. I'm not really shocked there because they've been kind of playing awfully. 1,376 penalties through the first 6 games in the NFL. So that 1,754 was wrong. But and then last year in all 16 games, I'm just trying to see it here. In all 16 games, again, remember that 1,300 over it was. Against counted, 3,569. Now keep in mind that's through a full, full playoffs included and everything. But it looks like they're on pace to break the what's the word I'm looking for? The penalty total. Which again, I understand it if you want to be able to save the players, if you want to be, because they're an investment to these owners. I understand that, but at the same point, do you think it's taking anything away from the game? Because I think it's getting dangerously close.
Yeah, I do. I do think the added penalties are taking away a physicality element to the game that I don't think should be taken away from the game. Quarterbacks are too protected now. Now receivers are getting a little too protected. Pretty soon it's going to be linemen with holding calls and all this crap, hands to the face. But yeah, I think we'll probably break the penalty record by a good 400 or 500, I would guess, at least. Oh, yeah. Not surprising, but yeah, I really. Sorry, I'm distracted here by the game. I'm watching the Chiefs and Broncos game, and unfortunately, Patrick Mahomes left the game with it appears to be a knee injury.
The team is screwed.
Hopefully it's nothing serious because I'm actually going to the Kansas City and Packers game next week.
Oh yeah,
I was really looking forward to them dueling, but hopefully it's not serious. But yeah, penalties, even just watching this game, I've already seen 4 or 5 penalties, and it's not even halftime. And it's ruining the game. I mean, linebackers and defensive linemen, they don't really know how to hit quarterbacks anymore. What's okay? If you even brush the back of their helmet with your hand, you're going to get called for roughing the passer. Mm-hmm. If you shoot for their legs, you're going to get called for roughing the passer. It's like you don't know what to do. I think there was a game last year. I forget which team it was, but I want to say it was Eli Manning got sacked, but the guy who sacked him kind of he wrapped him up and he kind of just set him on the ground, and looked at the ref is that okay? And yeah, it's just ridiculous.
That's what it's come to, though. That's literally what it's come to.
Unfortunately, and when you sign up to play football, you sign up to play a dangerous game. You're going to get hurt. Yeah. So I don't think they really need to make all these new rules protecting the players because they know what they signed up for. They signed up to play a physical, dirty game. They're going to get hurt. They're going to get concussed. Everybody's going to get concussed. Yeah. It's a dirty game. You're going to get hurt. I don't think there's any reason to be trying to make it safer unless it's obvious stuff like helmet to helmet. That was a rule that needed to be created, but all the roughing the passer crap, the new pass interference reviews, I'm not for it. I hate it.
Mm-hmm. I mean, again, I'm gonna kind of bring a stat here. I finally got everything under control. By the way, I'm getting the stats from NFLpenalties.com. So if you guys don't believe me, that's where you will find this information. Through the playoffs and everything last year, there was 3,569 penalties. Okay, I'm going to write that down so we can maybe refer to that later. 3,569 penalties. 569 through 6 weeks. Again, 1,376 penalties. There's still 2 more games left to be played before we hit that midway mark and we can multiply. I don't know. I was never good at math, but from the looks of it, we need about 1,700 to be able to beat that with playoffs included. And I still think we're going to beat it. Maybe your guess of 400 or 500 is correct. But listen, there comes a point when you have to be able to tell yourself, and this is the referees looking here. Are we being too careful? Are we? Sometimes you got to let the boys play because this is the NFL. This is what they get paid to do. This is, you said it. They know what they signed up for. They know what they're going into. This isn't, they're not going in this thing blindfolded. They know what could happen. I mean, unfortunately, there has been players that have been paralyzed because of how bad they get injured. A very unfortunate thing, but they knew going into the game. I think all these players know how dangerous this game is, but at the same time, you can't take it away from them. If they want to play full speed, this is what they're paid to do. I mean, they're paid ungodly amounts of money because, I mean, they can do stuff that I literally dream of. I wish I could bench 500 pounds. That would be really nice. I wish I could run, 28, 29 miles an hour. That would be nice. Maybe 28 or 29 is a little, nice, but still, the point is, you're getting paid all this money, let them play. And that's what the fans, that's why we pay, for tickets. And that's why we pay for jerseys. That's why we continue to tune in every Sunday. By the way, when are you leaving for Green Bay?
I'm leaving. It's in Kansas City, actually. I'm leaving next Thursday afternoon. We're heading down to Omaha, and we're gonna head to Kansas City for the weekend with our friends, do some fun stuff. Probably go to the zoo. Probably tailgate all day on Sunday. It's a Sunday night game. We got all day out. Unfortunately, it doesn't really need to be a primetime game anymore because the MVP, Patty Mahomes, is probably not going to be playing. From the looks of what I've seen so far.
Has he returned?
No, I'm no expert. I can't be going around diagnosing stuff. But when a player tears their ACL, they do the same thing Patrick Mahomes just did.
I saw him walking off the field. He looked like he was walking okay and everything. I mean, I don't know. Again, I'm not a doctor. I don't know what that means.
Players have done that. I mean, Carson Wentz, he tore his ACL. I want to say he almost damn near jogged off the field. But when Jordy Nelson tore his ACL, he got up and jogged off the field. And the same thing. He said, it doesn't hurt as bad as you would expect it to hurt, but it does take away some of the motion in your knee. So I don't know. I really hope that's not what happened, but that's what it looked like to me, at least. I hope that's not the case. But what was the topic? We're talking about the Kansas City game.
Yeah, we're talking about Kansas City game. Yeah.
Yeah. Luckily, their defense, Kansas City's defense, is actually stepping up for them. They strip sacked Joe Flacco, returned it for a touchdown. Defense is playing well. I'm not really sure still who their backup quarterback is, but as long as he can play solid, he's got weapons. He's got McCoy, Hill. Watkins is out right now. Their offensive line's banged up. They got Travis Kelce in, so I feel like as long as he can be productive and put up 20, 25, 30 maybe points a game, the Chiefs should be okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, I really hope the best for Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah. I hope he's not injured because my fantasy team is donezo if he doesn't come back. I drafted him first overall in that league, man. I thought he was going to that's 2 leagues now that I'm awful in.
I've got him starting in my fantasy league too. So I mean, at least he scored a touchdown.
Yeah, 1 touchdown.
But you hate to see it, and I hope it's not bad.
I also drafted Aaron Rodgers, so now I'm kind of just like he hasn't been bad, but he's kind of underperformed. Like you expect, like 25, maybe 30 points a game. He's getting me like 17 or 18. I'm like, you've got to be kidding me, man! Like, throw 2 more touchdowns. I don't care about your running game. Throw 2 more touchdowns. That's why I drafted you. Kind of back to this NFL penalty thing, though. I do think it's kind of like you said, it's taken away from the game, and at a certain point, we can't call them anymore. They gotta. I think being too careful is in a way it's taking away from the game. But let's kind of jump back into this Patrick Mahomes situation. Kind of give us a little bit of a hot topic here, and this is kind of a question again. Hopefully it's nothing serious. But do you think that can the Chiefs still make the playoffs if he misses the rest of the season?
I want to say yes because they're in the AFC, and I'm not saying I necessarily consider the AFC a weak division, but I think it's a lot weaker than the NFC.
Yeah.
I think really in the AFC there's only 3 or 4 teams that are, maybe 2 or 3 teams that are playoff locks, and that's probably New England. It was Kansas City, probably still is Kansas City. We're hoping the Ravens will be in the playoffs, I'm sure. Other than that, you really don't know who's going to be in the playoffs in the AFC. You would think the Chargers would make it. But you really don't know. I still think they do make the playoffs. I wouldn't be surprised if they actually brought in an old veteran quarterback if Mahomes ends up being out for an extended period of time. Because I've never heard of the backup, whatever his name is. But yeah, I hope
that's how bad it is.
But yeah, I do still think they make the playoffs. Yes.
Matt Moore, I had heard him. I think he played for the Dolphins. Yeah, something I remember.
Yeah,
Matt
he's
Moore.
played for a handful of teams.
But I mean, let's see here. Matt Moore stats. I mean, I still think they can. They got an okay defense. Yes, Mr. Matt Moore. Oh, I remember him. Yep, played for the Dolphins for a while. Played for the Panthers too. Yep. Remember him pretty well. No, I think they could still do it. But it'll be a tough road ahead, especially, not taking any shots at Matt Moore, but you're a backup quarterback. You're obviously not the real thing. I think, in a way, I felt like Patrick Mahomes, he's the MVP from last year for a reason, because he's what kept them in the game. So you know what? I'm going to change my answer to no. If Patrick Mahomes cannot come back from this injury, I'm going to go ahead and I don't think they can make it. I think he was the life that gave this team he was the light that gave this team life, and they're not going to make it, because if your quarterback is as good as Patrick Mahomes has been, or even close to that, obviously your team, Packers, are a great example. Aaron Rodgers was so great for so long. Now he's got a defense and a running game. That's not good if you're, NFC North fans or in the NFC. But the point is, I don't think they can make the playoffs. Not me taking a shot at Matt Moore, but he's no Patrick Mahomes, obviously. So I don't think they can make the playoffs. I think this is a big loss if he does indeed come out. So we'll have to see more on that developing. But now, great. Now, absolutely. Now my my fantasy team is totally done. Let's see here. What about Vikings and Packers game? I already kind of spoke on it. I was pretty happy. But what else? Do you kind of get slighted or feel slighted when people kind of mention the fact that the Packers might have gotten bailed out, or not really? Or are you just kind of rolling with it?
Yeah, it hurts. I mean, there's been so many times the Packers they've been on the other side of it. Like the Fail Mary in Seattle years ago. You probably remember that.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's been Patrick Mahomes has been ruled out.
He's been ruled out.
Yeah. But we talked about it last week. We talked about the Packers having a running game, having a defense, Aaron Rodgers not needing to be amazing anymore. And I think the game against Detroit Monday night was a really good example of something I said. I said Aaron Rodgers can be great when he needs to be great.
Yeah.
And they were given new life on that drive after the hands to the face call. And it was either you score a touchdown or you're probably going to lose.
Yeah.
And Rodgers just threw a straight 50-yard dime for that touchdown pass that kind of gave the Packers life, gave them some momentum, and they forced a 3-and-out on the Lions, and then they got the game-winning field goal. But he can still be great when he needs to be great. But the running game, Aaron Jones, the guy who had 4 touchdowns 2 weeks ago or last week against Dallas, didn't do anything Monday night. He had a fumble. He dropped a touchdown pass.
I was so infuriated by that. I was like, it was right in his hands.
Beautiful pass, dropped it.
Yeah.
But yeah, Jamal Williams, I think he ended up having 100+ yards, scoring a touchdown, and yeah, so our 1-2 punch at running back is very good, probably very underrated. It sucks. Geronimo Allison, our 2/3 receiver.
He got walloped. Holy cow.
He's in the concussion protocol now. He'll be out for a couple of weeks, I'm sure. Devontae Adams is still out with turf toe. Marquez Valdez-Scantling got hurt in the game against Detroit. He returned in the game, though, but he didn't look very good.
You guys are just losing receivers. You might have to start signing some Uncle Ricos of the wide receiver league or something.
They signed somebody today. They signed Ryan Grant, a former receiver for the Raiders.
Oh, yeah.
They signed Ryan Grant today, and they released Trey Carson, one of our running backs. But so hopefully he can bring a little stability to that receiving core and a little leadership. But
I'm looking at his stats right now. Not exactly. Sorry to interrupt you. Not exactly number one wide receiver, but I mean, all he needs to do at this point is just catch a couple passes and keep them in the game, because I think the Packers defense and running game will do the rest.
Yeah, we don't need to bring in great receivers. You know, I'm pulling for the Packers to actually trade some draft picks away for another number 2 or number 1 receiver. Because the Packers don't do that very often. They don't make big trades in midseason, but we got this new GM who's been doing some things differently, and I obviously I don't really want Antonio Brown anymore. I would have liked to see it, but after what happened this year, I don't want Antonio Brown. However, I would love to see Odell Beckham in green and yellow.
I saw you tweeting that out, and I was like, I kind of a little bit of fear struck into me, because if you Aaron Rodgers already is amazing with, other than Devontae Adams, pretty much no-name wide receivers at this point. Maybe not no-name wide receivers, but just not as, it's not a receiving core like the Browns, for that matter, or the Vikings, who have a number, Stephon Diggs and Adam Thielen, who are both, I would say, top 10 receivers, or top 15, because I think Diggs sometimes can be a little inconsistent. But I do still think that, it's Aaron Rodgers. You get him a good wide receiver. He's got a really good offensive line. I don't think people realize that. Maybe didn't exactly plan on Monday night, but he does have a really good offensive line. He has, wide receivers. You don't need to be a superstar wide receiver when you have an Aaron Rodgers. So, yeah.
Right. Like Devontae Adams, I think perfect example is Devontae Adams, Jordy Nelson. Neither of them were high draft picks. They were middle of the draft. I think Jordy got picked higher than Devontae Adams. Adams was a 6th rounder, I think, out of Fresno State. Mm-hmm. Never heard of the dude. He was on our bench on our practice squad for a bit. Mm-hmm. And yeah, he came in. The game he burst out was they started using him a lot against Dallas in the playoffs, where Dez dropped it.
Oh yeah.
He burst out that game, had some great plays, and all of a sudden he's breaking all the Packers receiving records. Mm-hmm. And yeah, he's awesome. I'm really glad we have him, and I think he's a top 5-6 receiver in the league, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But it's hard to say, because you have Aaron Rodgers, like you said, throwing you the ball. Yeah. And I feel like if you picked one guy, anybody in the league, he's kind of like Bill Belichick. He could go take a freaking McDonald's cashier and turn him into a first ballot Hall of Famer.
Okay. I'll say that might be a little far fetched, but he would be that McDonald's cashier would be a respectable NFL wide receiver, running a solid 6.440, but still scoring like 10 touchdowns in a year. Like that would be absolutely incredible. I agree. I think again, and this is why the NFC North is so tough, because obviously Aaron Rodgers has been amazing for so long.
How about Kirk Cousins?
Okay, I'll get into him in a sec. But I just want to give props to the Packers, because now they actually put a lot of pressure on the Vikings and the Bears, in my opinion. Because now I'll talk about Kirk Cousins. Here's the thing. I sat here last week and I said that I thought the Vikings were going to lose, because I think in order for the Vikings to have to win games, Kirk Cousins was going to have to air it out. And I don't know. They just won against the Giants. Give me a little bit of slack, okay? It was the Giants. It didn't really necessarily mean anything. And I still think, despite I still want to say I don't necessarily think that this game against the Eagles was that amazing, because the Eagles secondary is pretty much depleted. So, it wasn't like, they had Jalen Mills out, and they were basically playing their 3rd and 4th cornerbacks. So it wasn't like it was, it wasn't doing against the number 1 defense in the NFL. I will give them props, though, because they do have really good pass rushers on the Eagles. I think the week before that, they had 10 sacks against the Jets. I'll give him some props. He did play very well, and that was very nice to see, because Dalvin Cook wasn't able to do anything, because the Philadelphia Eagles have probably one of the best run-stuffing defenses in the NFL. Yeah. But I still think that it's going to come down to if he can do it against those better teams. Obviously, they got Detroit next week, and Detroit's a good team. They've been not trying to take shots at the Packers again, but they probably should have won Monday night, and they should probably be just about leading the NFC North right now. Obviously, Detroit's a good team. Matt Stafford's a good quarterback. They've got him playing differently this year. I don't know. It's really I'm kind of a little bit scared, because I think I think they're going to be able to kind of look at it. I think they're going to really push a lot of teams this year to play their hardest. And again, Kirk Cousins played well, but I'm not. I was practicing this in the mirror, how I was going to say this. I'm encouraged. I'm not excited. Okay, that means I'm encouraged to see him do. I was encouraged to see him do well against a it's not a mediocre defense, an injured defense that is still otherwise pretty good. But I'm not excited. I don't think he's going to be able to continue to throw 3 touchdowns to Stephon Diggs, who I wish I would have drafted because I lost by 30 again in one of my other fantasy leagues, and he scored like 40. But I don't think he's going to do it again. I just think that it was good to see and maybe kind of silence the haters for a little bit. But yeah, it was good to see. I mean, Kirk Cousins is actually like, as far as a person wise, he seems like he's a really good dude. It's just seems to crumble in the big moments, but he didn't crumble against the Eagles, which was nice to see. Another thing I noticed from the game, the Vikings defense, I think it was going into the fourth quarter. The Vikings record, I think when they have a fourth quarter lead, is like 22-0. So they're basically pretty much undefeated when Mike Zimmer's on the field, or when Mike Zimmer's team goes into the fourth quarter with a lead. That's encouraging because that tells me 2 things. Number one, the defense obviously shuts people out, doesn't let them come back into the football game for the most part. And then also the offense does a great job of clock management and running the football and taking care of it that way. So I expect that record to be broken at some point during the season, maybe hopefully not in the playoffs. But I expect that record to be broken at some point. I probably just jinxed him, but I still think that the Vikings are they've still got some stuff to prove. This is a must-win this week going against the Lions because, like I said, the Packers put a lot of pressure on the Vikings and the Lions and really the entire NFC North division with getting this win because now you guys are 5-1, Vikings are 4-2. This is definitely a big game coming up for the Vikings. What did you see?
Yeah, I wouldn't. Yeah, like you said, I wouldn't get too excited if I was a Vikings fan. Obviously, Kirk Cousins looked like the quarterback the Vikings paid him to be.
Yeah.
On Sunday against the Eagles. That's a game that I, and probably everybody else, picked the Eagles to win that game.
Yep, me too.
But it goes to show you how good the offense can be when Kirk Cousins is in the zone, when he's on. And they need that. I mean, like you said, Dalvin Cook wasn't really a factor in that game. But if Dalvin Cook can be a factor and Kirk Cousins can both play well in the same game, the Vikings, the offense is going to be – it can be really, really scary. Mm-hmm. And, yeah, with receivers like Thielen and Diggs, I saw something funny about if the new thing is if a Vikings receiver complains, Kirk Cousins will throw him 3 touchdowns next week. And because first Thielen was complaining, then he had a huge game. Then Diggs was complaining, he had a huge game. So I think somebody else should start. Treadwell maybe should start complaining. But
well, not Treadwell because it doesn't matter. He's probably on his way out. Yeah, hopefully, yeah, maybe he should complain. Maybe help the Vikings out. I don't know, but I was actually really encouraged. I don't know did you watch the Vikings game or not really?
I watched the highlights of it. I didn't get to watch the whole game. No.
There was also the Vikings rookie running back Alexander Madison. I think he was a 3rd-round pick out of Boise State. Played very well. He was a guy that obviously Dalvin Cook's going to get the horses load the bulk of the carries. Maybe the horse. I don't know. I don't know. I had a horse on the mind. That's not right. He's going to get the lion's share. Oh my gosh. Okay. Yeah. Dalvin Cook's going to get the lion's share of the carries. Whether it's touches, whether it's getting a carry or getting a pass. I still think that he's going to have to. Dalvin Cook's going to might step up his game a little bit in terms of pass blocking because. The Vikings offensive line is not it's all right. It's improved, but it's not great. So, but back to Alexander Madison. He did play very well, even though he had a late fumble, which at that point it was a blowout. Nobody really cared. And I think the Vikings bailed him out with a pick anyways. So, the thing is, if the Vikings running game, he's really played well all season long. I think he's got over 200 yards, 1 touchdown. If you can continue to be able to bring that kind of an impact week in and week out when Dalvin Cook isn't on the field, that's going to be huge for the Vikings because I think it was back in 2017 that when Dalvin Cook went down, the Vikings had to rely on Latavius Murray. They had to rely on Jerick McKinnon to be able to come in and provide load. And yeah, Alexander Madison, 250 yards this far, hasn't obviously started a game, but he could be a guy that rushes for 500 yards and probably gives the Vikings a handful of touchdowns. So I'm not necessarily worried if Dalvin Cook goes down. I think that I'm jinxing the Vikings tonight, but I still think Alexander Madison can go ahead and can carry the Vikings. No, I love Mike Zimmer, and just the way that he answers questions, it's very funny to me. I think that especially everything kind of going in it's going to be really good to see how the team reacts to playing a good team in the Lions, and it's going to be important to see how they react to continue to see if they can win a game in a tough environment. I don't remember if it's away or at home, but I know that the Vikings, all I know is that they have to play.
Detroit, I think.
Vikings schedule. It is Vikings at Packers, at Lions. So yeah, and then the Redskins come to Minnesota next Thursday night. So nope, it'll be good to see the Vikings going through that, because I do believe that they do have to they got to take care of business. But what about this other big news? Jalen Ramsey is going to the Rams.
Yeah, just showed up in Los Angeles today, I think, or last night.
Last night, yeah.
Not sure if he's going to play. I would assume he'll play Sunday, because the Rams they traded away Marcus Peters to the Ravens, which was another big trade, but it's kind of being overshadowed by the Jalen Ramsey situation. Yeah. And I would just like to congratulate Jalen Ramsey on his miraculous healing of his back injury. As soon as he got traded, his back feels all better now, so thought that was pretty funny, but
yeah.
You saw it coming. He wasn't hurt.
He just didn't. I think he got tired of dealing with everything with the Jaguars. I mean, there was something a couple years ago. Wasn't there something that Jalen Ramsey said that the NFL basically made them throw the game or whatever against the Patriots to go to the Super Bowl? Like, maybe, I don't know, maybe there wasn't something I remember right or whatever. But, ever since that kind of happened, he hasn't necessarily fallen off, but he hasn't been as dominant as I thought he would be. But I think he's going to really, really solidify that Rams defensive backfield. I think it's going to be tough, especially, I think they traded Marcus Peters to the Ravens. So that'll be, he's a big loss too, but I mean, they're getting Jalen Ramsey. So it's really no skin off the Rams' backs. But at the same time, I don't think they have a first round pick for 5 years. Like, I saw that. I'm like, okay, I realize the Rams are probably most likely in a win now mode, and I can respect that a little bit, because I mean, Jared Goff and Todd Gurley are both respectable players. Cooper Kupp, I actually really like Cooper Kupp, but your defense and everything, I'm just really I'm really scared to see what he'll do. And if they are in win now mode, does this move mean that they actually have a shot now? I don't know. Obviously, Jalen Ramsey is a game changer, but I think it's going to come down to really how Jared Goff and Todd Gurley, how they can continue to play.
Yeah, for sure. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think the Rams gave up 2 firsts and a fourth. 2
in the fourth round. Yep.
That's a lot for a cornerback. You never see trades that big for defensive backs.
Yeah.
That's super surprising. I didn't see that coming when teams were only asking for 1 first-round pick for Antonio Brown. But, I guess those teams didn't know about the emotional baggage he was going to bring with him.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a huge trade. I mean, they have an anchor at each level. I'm not sure about linebackers. I'm not too familiar with their linebackers, but they got Aaron Donald on the defensive line, and they got Marcus Peters. I believe they have Eric Weddle, correct?
The Rams, they should have Eric Weddle, yeah, from what I remember.
I want to say he signed with the Rams this offseason. So if that is true, that's a very good backfield.
Weddle stats. Let's see if he actually plays for them. They've got to be, yeah, he is. He does play for the Rams. Wow, they got a pretty good defensive backfield, like you said. And plus, can we just give a little bit of props to the 49ers right now? Like, I can't believe what I'm seeing. Aren't they one of the only undefeated teams in NFL, like in the NFL right now?
Yeah, them and the Patriots, and they're getting disrespected pretty bad. I was watching Good Morning Football yesterday, and they were talking about the NFC Playoff Picture, and these two guys were arguing back and forth. They were like, "Who do you think the road to the Super Bowl is going to go through? Is it going to go through Lambeau Field, or is it going to go through New Orleans?" Yeah. And I'm just sitting there like, there's still a team in the NFC that hasn't even been beat yet. Nobody's talking about them. Yeah. The 49ers haven't been beat. Their defense looks awesome. Their offense looks good. They look like a very, very well-balanced team, which is scary. Yeah. They're not winning by a little points. They're winning by multiple touchdowns. And, they're flying under everybody's radar. The Green Bay gets to play them in a few weeks. I'm excited for that. I don't really want the 49ers to still be undefeated when that time comes, but that'll be a fun one to watch. But yeah, it's crazy. Nobody's talking about him. I think they're not getting the respect they deserve. Jimmy Garoppolo he's doing very well, even though he's had the most turnovers in a season he's had in his entire career. But that really doesn't mean anything because he hasn't even been a starter for a whole season before. I don't think.
No, No, he hasn't. Plus, the defense is playing out of their mind right now. Like that defensive line, I think I heard somewhere 4 first-round draft picks or something like that. Like literally, Nick Bosa. I mean, this guy, I don't think he plays a ton, but he has 3 sacks already this year, and he's only started 3 games out of 5.
I think they were all against Baker Mayfield.
What's that?
I think all 3 of his sacks were against Baker Mayfield.
I'm looking up right now. He says he has 2 against Baker Mayfield. Oh. By the way, I liked his move when he put it into the, faked the flag because it was kind of, karma sucks, but it's whatever in football. But I thought that was really funny. I don't necessarily, I don't approve of showboating, but that was precedented, right? Like that was deserved. But no, this entire defensive line for them is just absolutely balling out right now. And they still have D Ford obviously, and they've got DeForest Buckner, who's a really good player. Arik Armstead even has a couple 2.5 sacks and around about like just their entire defense right now. And maybe you saw it like during the highlights or whatever. Did you see how excited their defensive coordinator was? Like that makes a big difference. Like I think when the Vikings had Leslie Frazier, he was such every time Tristin that they used to like take it, like put the camera on Leslie Frazier, his team would be down like by 35 points. And you would see Leslie Frazier just stone faced, like nothing. Like I would be yelling at them. I would be making them run laps or run hundreds on the sidelines while we're getting our butt kicked. And it was kind of frustrating for me because I was like, I really liked him as a person because there's a difference between a guy being professional on the sideline and having some emotion when your team is down that much. Like you have to be able. What's that?
I have a favorite memory of Leslie Frazier.
Okay.
I believe it was week 15 or 16. I don't know what year it was, but the Vikings played the Packers the last week of the regular season, and they beat the Packers. And then they played them in the wild card round.
Oh yeah. Yep.
And Leslie Frazier
2012
benched Christian Ponder, and he started Joe Webb.
Christian Ponder got injured. Actually, he dislocated his shoulder. He had dislocated his shoulder. Yeah.
I thought he was okay to play though, and they just decided to play Joe Webb.
No, I looked that up because I remember I was looking that up a couple days ago because I was like, yeah, why did Christian Ponder not play? And it was because he hurt his shoulder the week before against the Packers.
Kind of like how Manny Pacquiao hurt his shoulder when he fought Floyd.
Yep.
Everybody's got excuses, but
okay,
speaking of fighting, I want to get into fighting a little bit on the show. Not this episode, but I'm a big UFC fan. If we have any listeners that are UFC fans, I'd be more than happy to talk about it. But it's a little off topic. I'll go back to Leslie Frazier. But yeah, you're right. Every time you saw him on camera, he didn't look happy. And I'm not really sure how long his tenure with the Vikings was. I don't think it was very long.
He was a defensive coordinator for a while, but then he got promoted to the interim head coach when Brad Childress got fired. And then because Brad Childress was trying to save the Vikings, so he brought in Randy Moss. He had Brett Favre still, and then Brett Favre got hit by that Vikings or that defensive lineman for the Bears. Oh man, what's his name? I'm blanking on it, but anyway, he ended up getting fired, and then Leslie Frazier took over. And from that moment on, he spent a couple seasons with the Vikings after that. That 2012 year was the year that Adrian Peterson ran for over 2,000 yards. And then the next week, the first round of the playoffs had like 99 yards, like literally 1 yard away from 100 yards. And but yeah, it was rough because I still think that the Leslie Frazier, like I said, every time you see the dude, like every time you saw him, he just had no Corey Wooten. That's who the defensive lineman was. Sorry, the name just popped into my head. Who ended Brett Favre's career and then came to play for the Vikings. But listen, I still think that every time I saw Leslie Frazier, I just got infuriated because just remembering how nonchalant he was on the sideline and just needed to have emotion, and still he had a good defense up until those couple seasons. I don't know why all of a sudden it was bad. I think it was because he played I think it was the Tampa 2 that he ended up playing his defense, and it was I think it was outdated, And I think that's why the defense wasn't as good. But listen, the point is that he wasn't emotional. And then Mike Zimmer came in and absolutely was just adamant. Like, he was yelling at people. Like, people literally would be getting a drink of water. He'd be in their face. Like, that's the kind of enthusiasm I wanted from,
you need that. I feel like a team needs that coach. You need somebody who's going to yell and scream. Like, for instance, the Packers, Mike McCarthy, he got heated here and there, but he wasn't really big into yelling at the players very much. Mm-hmm. But Matt LaFleur, I mean, he's only been here for 6 weeks, and I love his attitude. He's screaming at people left and right, and but
like, yeah. I feel like if you're like a coach too, like, you need to be like, while obviously yelling at people, you need to have like a little spit flying too. Like spit needs to be hitting the player's face so that they know. Yeah. Like, and the coach won't say anything. Like, they don't care because I'm yelling at you. You're not doing your job. I'm yelling at you. I just find that hilarious. I think that's also what often the coaches need to have. They need to be yelling at their players. Like, it's just because they're not getting the job done.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
But no, again, Leslie Frazier was, bad to see. But once Mike Zimmer came in, kind of shorted up, I was glad to see that. And I'm still a big Mike Zimmer fan. I don't care what all the Vikings fans say. I still think that he's really done a great job, especially with everything that he's done. As far as just, looking at everything. Let's also kind of talk about, what about the Dallas Cowboys now? Won their first 3 games. I thought it was kind of funny because I know Chris Smith, he's the director of content for the Unfiltered Sports Network, who I write for on the side. I gotta bring up something, big guy, because it made me laugh a little bit. A couple weeks ago, I made a joke to him. I DM'd him on Twitter and I said, I think I gave him some sort of flack about the Cowboys or something about, they were 3-0 and the Vikings had just lost. I think it was to the Packers or somebody, or no, they just won actually against the Raiders. And I remember thinking to myself, if he brings that up, I hope that the Cowboys just start to lose left and right. Nothing personally against the Cowboys, but sometimes you need to be made a little bit modest. I love Chris to death. He's a great guy. I just thought it was funny. So I remember DMing him and being like, give him some flack about the Cowboys. And he responds back to me, I don't speak 2 and 1. I'm like, oh, okay. All right. I'll let that one slide. I had that coming. I told him I had that one coming. And I remember just kind of looking at that. I was like, man, I don't ever wish ill upon anybody. But I just really hope that for some reason the Cowboys they don't do as well during the next couple of weeks, so I can feel good about myself for a little bit. And sure enough, they're on a 3-game losing streak, and they just lost to the Jets. So, Chris, if you're listening, I gotta say this: I don't speak 3 and 3. I'm sorry. I'm just kidding, big guy. No. I don't know what's going on with the Cowboys right now. I think a lot of people, and we had this debate on the podcast, is Dak Prescott a franchise quarterback? I said no because I felt like he had to have a big season. Yeah, I don't put any respect on Dak's name.
Franchise quarterback.
Yeah, franchise. I still think that it's going to really come down to this season and what he can prove to do with his arm. Because, again, you have Zeke Elliott, and you don't really need to do a whole lot if you have a Zeke Elliott. You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't get a couple first downs either, and then when they shut him down, shred him apart. 8 guys, 9 guys in the box. Okay, run a slant, run a screen, run a whole bunch of different things. Run some deep curl or something. Get the offense going with by throwing the football. And I just want to kind of point out some stats here. Okay, first game he played the New York Giants. We know who the New York Giants are. Okay, he threw 4 touchdowns and over 400 yards. The Cowboy fans were hyped. Okay, they were like, they're saying that he's proven his franchise quarterback had a good game. Yeah, he should, against one of the worst defenses in the NFL. Okay, next week against Washington, not the worst defense in the NFL, but certainly not the best. Came out and threw 3 touchdowns and a pick, 269 yards. Dallas wins again. Okay, get a little bit more attention. I'm pretty happy to see what he's doing. Then they come out against the Miami Dolphins. And at one point, the Dolphins were kind of in that game, might I add. Before finally Dak and the rest of the Cowboys finally woke up and they beat him 31-6. Dak Prescott, 19-32 for 246 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a pick. Okay, not great, but he got the job done. Tristin, do you want to tell me what he did against the New Orleans Saints? And I do believe that I said I would come on the podcast and say I was wrong, even when he didn't do anything. He didn't do anything. I'll answer that for you. 22-33, 220 yards, no touchdowns, 1 pick. Okay, and the Saints, one of my buddies, Kyle Showalter, big shout out, kind of brought it up that their defense really isn't that good. The Saints, and it's not great, but it's still top 20. I think it's top 15 around there. Still got a good defense. They had a backup quarterback in Teddy Bridgewater. Go Teddy, love you, man. And they still were able to beat the Cowboys, and then they come back against Green Bay, and obviously 2 touchdowns, 3 picks. I'm not saying he's not a franchise quarterback, but he hasn't looked like it.
No, he hasn't. First of all, you can't spell Dallas without back-to-back L's. I saw that on Twitter, and that made me laugh.
Uh-huh.
But, that was when they had 2 L's. Now they have 3. So
yeah, I know.
Back L's. But there's no excuse. There's no excuse to lose to the Jets. I can see you losing to the Saints.
Yeah. The
Packers, okay. They're both very good teams, but the Jets,
the Jets didn't win a game yet, man.
That was a game. I mean, I picked up Michael Gallup and played him at my wide receiver 1 spot because you were playing the New York Jets.
Yeah.
And you go out and do nothing.
Yes.
Against the Jets. I mean, the Jets, I think the Jets, they're a lot better than their record says.
When they got Sam Darnold in there and a quarterback. I really like Sam Darnold. He's been playing well.
They do have, he's back, and they look so much better when he's on the field.
Yep.
I don't think, what are they, 1-5?
Yeah, they're not good.
Yeah, with Darnold, they look like so much better than a 1-5 team.
Yeah.
But they were 0-5. You can't lose to them.
No.
Yeah, and there's no excuse for Dak Prescott not to be having a big year. I know Randall Cobb was out, I believe. Amari Cooper got sent out of the game in the first quarter, I think.
He got injured right away. And then also, I think Randall Cobb got injured too. So I can see why they can make excuses.
So there's some issues, but I mean, when you have Randall Cobb, Michael Gallup, Amari Cooper, Jason Witten, Ezekiel Elliott, a pretty good offensive line, and a very good, I think their defense is very good.
Yeah.
Probably not top 10, but
no,
they have a good enough defense to get you wins, especially a team like the Jets. Linebackers are supposed to be all-stars, and Aaron Jones is out here blowing kisses at him as he runs touchdowns in. But I don't know. There's no excuse for Dak Prescott not to have a big year. No excuse for the Cowboys not to make the playoffs. Mm-hmm. If they don't make the playoffs, that's going to be rough. It's going to be rough for Prescott. He's not going to get paid.
Garrett is getting fired if they don't make the playoffs. I'm telling you right now.
Jason Garrett will get fired, and Dak Prescott will not get paid.
Yeah, absolutely. I just want to bring this up. The Jets, by the way, not only have one of the worst offenses in the NFL, but before Sam Darnold even stepped on the field, they were obviously number 32 in throwing the football. But even after he throws for over 300 yards, they're still number 32 in the NFL. They're throwing for 156 yards a game. Sam Darnold threw for over 330 yards against the Cowboys. And, man, that defense killed me last week too. And, he had 2 touchdowns and a pick. I'm looking at Sam Darnold, I'm thinking, the Jets got some hope now. The rest, they got to fill out the rest of their team, obviously, but they got some hope now. And Sam Darnold absolutely balled out, and I'm really happy to see what he's doing there. But how do you lose to the Jets, man? One of the worst running games, despite the fact they have Le'Veon Bell. I don't know what that says about their offensive line, but just look at this. I don't know how you lose to the Jets. I really don't. And it's something that I'm looking at. I'm hoping, I don't have anything personal against the Cowboys. This was supposed to be a rebound. Zeke Elliott was supposed to run for 230 yards and score 3 touchdowns. Dak Prescott was supposed to throw 2, maybe 3 touchdowns. This was supposed to be a rebound game, and you lose to the Jets. This is panic time. If you're a Cowboys fan, this is panic time. I don't care what anybody says, because at the end of the day, when your team, and this is like when the Vikings played the Bills last year and just got dismantled. I think it was in Minneapolis too. And and Anthony Barr got hurdled by a rookie quarterback in Josh Allen. Yeah, that was panic mode. This is panic mode for the Cowboys right now.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I was just shocked to see that. I was laughing at it, and I realized, moving forward, if the Cowboys just need to get their receivers back and maybe seem to, find whatever shred of dignity they can and just play some football. I don't know. I just thought it was funny.
Not. I hope not. I don't like Jason Garrett, and I don't like Dak Prescott. I want Jason Garrett to get fired. I think Jason Garrett will get fired this year. If they make the playoffs and they lose in the first round again, I still think he gets fired.
Yeah.
You have too good of a team to not be doing anything with. And I don't know. I think he's going to get fired. I don't think Dak's going to get paid. Despite how good he does. I mean, if they win, like, I think they won their first round of the playoffs last year, I believe. He got his first playoff win. If they can win 2 playoff games this year, that might be a warrant to pay Dak Prescott if he can get you further than he got you last year. But I just don't see it happening, especially after you take an L to the Jets. It's pretty sad, and that's definitely a new low for the Cowboys. I'm not sure who they play coming up, but I can't tell you it's going to get much easier than playing the Jets, because that game should have been pretty easy, I think.
Yeah, it should have been. It was, like I said, it was supposed to be a rebound game. And the fact that they're not doing it well, I guess that's just how the cookie crumbles. There's also talk of the possibility of Mitch Trubisky coming back for the Bears game. And I have a question, and I believe that it should be answered here a little bit. And the question is, if indeed Mr. Trubisky can make it back for the game, does that mean that the Bears should bench Chase Daniel?
No.
And no, I agree with you. Here's why. What's that? Go ahead.
No, I'd say it doesn't matter if Trubisky's back or not. I think Chase Daniel is a better thrower of the football than Trubisky. Mitchell Trubisky is, I don't know what the numbers are. I think he's overrated. It's not just because I'm a Packers fan. It's just because from what I've seen, he's not that good. Yeah. They've put so much belief and so much stock into him that they feel like they have to stick with him. And Chase Daniels, I don't really know how he's been playing the last couple of weeks, but I would say he's probably been better in the air than Mitchell Trubisky has been. But I don't know what the stats are. Did the Bears lose last week? Or
I think they had their bye week.
I think it was. Yeah, it was their bye week. Yep.
It was their bye week? Okay. That's what
this
I thought.
week was their bye week, or last week was their bye week, rather. I'm not sure if they won or lost the week before, but I mean, they'll probably play Mitchell Trubisky over Chase Daniel, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But I feel like that's a weakness for their offense, because Mitch Trubisky can't throw left. In the rare instances where he can throw left, the offense is pretty successful. But he's not. I would rather have Dak Prescott than Mitch Trubisky. I think anybody would.
Yeah.
Trubisky, I think he's probably one of the worst starting quarterbacks in the league. And there's a few bad ones out there. I think he's one of them. But I wouldn't be hopeful if I was a Bears fan. I think they need to draft a new quarterback, or they need to bring in somebody else, because I don't think Mitchell Trubisky will ever take the Bears anywhere.
Mm-hmm. This is the only thing I feel about Mitch Trubisky is this. The Bears, I believe, traded up from the number 3 spot to the number 2 spot to draft him. Against a team that I believe I'm going to look back here, but from what I remember, it was a team that could have stayed at number 3 and totally been okay.
They could have stayed at number 3 and drafted Trubisky in the 3rd round.
Okay, that's probably true. But looking back at the 2017 NFL draft, I'm actually looking up the team that that actually was ahead of them, because I believe they just switched spots with them just to be on the safe side. I believe it was San Francisco, who I don't know if they had Jimmy G or were they thinking about it at that point, but they had Jimmy G. Yep, they had Jimmy G. But the point is that they could have stayed at number 3 and been fine. Like you said, probably stayed for in the 3rd round. I don't know about 3rd round. I don't know, because he was pretty highly touted coming out of college. I just think that it was kind of I don't know what was going on there. I mean, just looking at it, I don't know what their thought process was. Maybe I hate to say this name on the air, because it brings back bad memories. It brings back a lot of bad memories. Christian Ponder, whom the Vikings, I believe, drafted again 12th overall, and I believe they traded up for. And then the Bears went out and did the same thing. I'm not going to say he's a Christian Ponder-esque pick, but despite some of the questionable decision, not even just questionable decision making. I would say just the way that Mr. Trubisky plays a little too cautionary. Doesn't like to sling it a whole lot. I would say that he reminds me a lot of Christian Ponder, but he's not. I think he's a better quarterback than Christian Ponder. So, and it's just the fact. I don't know what the Bears were thinking. Maybe leadership. Maybe he blew it out of the room, blew it out of the water with the interviews. I don't know necessarily what happened there, but I still think that moving forward, I think he needs to play like he was a number 2 overall pick. Like he needs to justify that for the Bears. Otherwise, a lot of people are getting fired. And let's be real about something. You said it best. Chase Daniel, threw the football very well against a tough Minnesota Vikings defense, and in a way, kind of had them on their heels for a bit. And I know they only put up, it was only like 16 points, but that's all he had to do. I mean, when his defense was swarming Kirk Cousins, all he had to do was put up a couple scores and let the defense do the rest. So if you got a guy that can come in, score 2-3 touchdowns and call it good and let your defense go attack the other quarterback, like, I don't know why you would mess that up. They're coming off their bye week. They're going to prepare for whoever they got next. And I think it's honestly just going to come down to, what's gelling best for the team right now. The Vikings were facing the same exact thing a couple years ago when 2017, when Case Keenum was playing very well. They started Sam Bradford. I think it was against the Bears too. And the Bears defense was still good, but the offense was still searching. And I think that was actually Mitch Trubisky's first start too. And the Vikings started Sam Bradford, and he wasn't back from his knee injury yet. He just was not quite there. And then they were able to they brought Case Keenum in, who came in and won the game for him. It's just you have to go what's best for your football team at that point. So I don't know that Mitch Trubisky is what's best for your football team moving forward at this point. I think you got to be honest with yourself. If whichever quarterback gives you the best chance to be successful, you have to take that above where you drafted Mitch Trubisky. Mm-hmm. So that's my feeling on it. I think you got to look at it. You just got to be sure that this is the absolute best thing for your football team. And let's see. I don't know who they play next. They play the 20th. I think it looks like who do the Bears play next? I don't even know.
Shoot, I don't know.
I don't know. Doesn't matter.
I got a little update here on Patty Mahomes.
Okay.
It is believed he had a patella or a kneecap dislocation. Oh. It can be treated without surgery, and he could just wear a brace.
Uh-huh.
It said best case scenario, he'll just miss a few weeks. Worst case scenario, he'll have season-ending surgery. Mm-hmm. He'll have an MRI tomorrow to determine which course to take.
Mm-hmm. Please.
He will be out for a few weeks. Unfortunately, I won't get to see him play next week. So that's too bad. Packers by a landslide. But the Madden curse never fails.
It doesn't. Fails. By the way, the Bears play New Orleans next week. That's going to be a tough game, even though it is at Soldier Field. Man, that's tough to hear for. That's tough to hear for the Chiefs, because I know Maurice is probably fumed right now because his one hope at quarterback is down. I hope it's obviously nothing serious for Patty Mahomes. I hope he can come back and do his thing. But yeah, again, big thing coming up. Hopefully, I actually want the Packers to win, because I feel like that'll really set the tone. I feel like if Mahomes misses the rest of the season, maybe I don't know, maybe the Chiefs won't take the season so seriously, because your best player's out and your defense is not as good as it was last year. So maybe they'll tank. I don't want to say maybe not tank, but they won't maybe play as well, just so maybe they get a better draft pick, and that way the Vikings can beat them and hopefully go to the playoffs. I doubt it, but we'll see. Yeah, that's all I got for tonight. If you guys want to go ahead and follow me at Colton Hall 99 on Twitter, follow Tristin at Tristin. Is it .Rancour on Twitter?
Yes.
Tristan.Rancour on Twitter. Again, remember to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Follow us on Instagram, Twitter. You guys know the thing. You subscribe to your thing. Tristin, always great having you on.
Pleasure.
That's, I think, what we got for tonight. But thanks for joining us, everybody. And make sure you guys have a good night and take it easy.